Many believe that intimacy is a simple act of closeness, but for those carrying the unseen weight of fearful, avoidant attachment, every step toward love feels like walking a tightrope between longing and terror, desire and retreat, connection and self-protection. The shadow of intimacy emerges most profoundly in those who embody a fearful, avoidant attachment style, for within their psyche exists a silent battlefield where the longing for closeness collides with an almost primal terror of being consumed or hurt by it. This internal conflict is not superficial hesitation or conscious choice. Rather, it is a deep-seated psychological tension shaped by the earliest experiences of connection and betrayal. When a fearful avoidant encounters intimacy, they stand at the threshold of something both desperately desired and profoundly dangerous to their sense of self. The unconscious mind, having learned that closeness can wound as much as it can heal, holds on to this memory like a survival mechanism, creating an invisible barrier that prevents complete surrender to love. This manifests as self-sabotage, pulling away just when closeness is within reach, erecting walls when vulnerability is requested, or masking true feelings to maintain a fragile sense of safety. Yet beneath these defenses lies a profound yearning for union, a hunger for a bond that feels both safe and alive. This is the shadow at play, the rejected, unacknowledged parts of the self that both desire and fear connection, shaping behaviors that seem paradoxical even to the one experiencing them. Intimacy triggers this shadow because it threatens to unearth long-buried wounds, the fear of abandonment, the pain of unpredictability, the shame of needing love while believing oneself unworthy of it. In the presence of genuine closeness, the fearful avoidant may feel exposed, as if intimacy is a mirror reflecting not only their beauty but also every unhealed fracture within their soul. This creates a profound ambivalence, a pull toward love intertwined with an impulse to flee from it. They may idealize connection from a distance, fantasizing about perfect unity, yet when confronted with real, tangible intimacy, panic surfaces as the psyche anticipates inevitable loss or betrayal. This shadow-driven conflict distorts not only their ability to remain close to others, but also their understanding of their own desires, making relationships feel like a cycle of hope followed by withdrawal. The tragedy of this dynamic is that the very defenses built to shield the heart from pain become the very barriers that deny it the closeness it craves. To understand this shadow is to see that what appears as rejection or coldness is often a desperate attempt to preserve the self from what once felt like annihilation, revealing that beneath avoidance lies not apathy, but a deep, unspoken longing for intimacy untainted by fear. Sex, for the fearful avoidant, is rarely a simple act of physical pleasure. It is a profound and often destabilizing experience that exposes the very core of their internal struggle with intimacy. Within their unconscious mind, sexual closeness awakens two opposing forces, the desire for connection and the terror of losing autonomy or being wounded once more. This duality makes sexual encounters feel like stepping into sacred yet dangerous territory, where vulnerability is demanded and the hidden fears of abandonment or rejection are silently activated. Unlike casual interactions where emotional armor can remain intact, sex has the power to pierce through those defenses, forcing the fearful avoidant to confront emotions they would rather keep buried. The body's yearning for closeness clashes with the psyche's desperate need for protection, leading to conflicting behaviors, intense passion followed by emotional withdrawal, deep longing interlaced with avoidance of true surrender. This inner conflict is not merely about discomfort with physical closeness. It is rooted in a history where intimacy may have once been unpredictable, unsafe, or linked with feelings of shame. The unconscious remembers, and during moments of sexual connection, those old wounds are reawakened, creating an invisible tension between pleasure and fear. The fearful avoidant may oscillate between idealizing sex as the ultimate proof of love and simultaneously fearing it as a moment of potential exposure to rejection. As they draw nearer to another person in the most intimate way, a quiet panic may surface, whispering that such closeness cannot last or that being fully known will inevitably lead to hurt. This tension transforms sex into more than a physical union. It becomes a psychological battlefield where trust, safety, and self-worth are all tested. Often, after moments of intense intimacy, the fearful avoidant might instinctively pull away, not because the experience lacked meaning, but because it carried too much emotional weight, threatening to engulf the fragile boundaries they cling to for survival. What appears to others as inconsistency or emotional coldness is, in truth, a profound struggle to reconcile the craving for merging with another and the fear of disappearing within that closeness. For the fearful avoidant, sexual intimacy has the potential to heal when approached with patience and understanding, yet without such safety, it frequently reopens wounds and reinforces the belief that closeness is unsafe. This creates a paradoxical experience where sex simultaneously feels like the doorway to connection and the trigger for retreat, leaving the fearful avoidant in a perpetual cycle of desire and fear. The wound of early bonds shapes the very foundation of the fearful avoidant's struggles with intimacy and sex, for it is within the first attachments that the psyche learns whether love is a sanctuary or a source of danger. In the formative years, when a child instinctively reaches for comfort, stability, and emotional attunement, inconsistent or painful responses from caregivers etch deep patterns into the unconscious. Love may have come entwined with unpredictability, sometimes nurturing, other times distant or rejecting, creating a confusing inner reality where closeness is both necessary for survival and risky to embrace. This dual message leaves a lasting imprint, teaching the developing self that to love is to anticipate loss, that to be vulnerable is to invite potential hurt, and that safety in connection is uncertain. As this child grows into adulthood, these early relational wounds remain largely unspoken and unseen, yet they govern the way intimacy is approached. In moments of closeness, the fearful avoidance nervous system remembers the instability of past bonds, reacting with heightened sensitivity to signs of disconnection or betrayal. Even subtle cues, a shift in tone or a delayed response, can unconsciously echo those early experiences, stirring anxiety and mistrust. This is not a conscious choice to mistrust or withdraw, but a conditioned response born from the need to self-protect in an environment where love once felt unsafe. These early wounds also distort the perception of self-worth. Having learned that care and affection are unpredictable, the fearful avoidant may secretly believe they are unworthy of consistent love, or that they must earn safety through pleasing or withdrawing. Such beliefs infiltrate adult intimacy, making it difficult to fully trust partners or to rest in the security of mutual affection. Instead, relationships become a dance of reaching out for connection while simultaneously fearing it will vanish, recreating the very dynamic that wounded them in the first place. Sex, emotional bonding, and vulnerability all become complicated by this invisible history as the fearful avoidant unconsciously braces for abandonment or engulfment, even when no immediate threat exists. Healing these early relational wounds requires recognizing their presence and gently disentangling the past from the present. Without this awareness, the fearful avoidant remains trapped in patterns shaped long ago, seeking closeness, yet never fully believing it can be safe. The wound of early bonds is thus not merely a chapter of childhood, but an enduring psychological force, silently shaping every attempt at love and intimacy throughout life. The push-pull dynamics in relationships with a fearful avoidant emerge from a profound inner conflict that few can see, but many can feel when entangled with them. At the heart of this dynamic lies an intense yearning for love and closeness intertwined with an equally strong fear of losing independence or being emotionally wounded. When they sense connection forming, their deepest longing awakens, drawing them toward the intimacy they have always desired. Yet as that closeness deepens, their subconscious alarms begin to ring, warning of vulnerability, abandonment, or engulfment. This creates a cycle where they may initially pursue a partner with warmth and passion, only to suddenly withdraw or create distance once the relationship feels too close. The withdrawal is rarely deliberate cruelty. It is a defense mechanism, an instinctive attempt to regain emotional safety by retreating into solitude. However, once distance is established, another inner force surfaces, the ache of loneliness and fear of losing the very bond they distanced themselves from. They may then reach out again, seeking reassurance and reconnection, only for the pattern to repeat. This push-pull rhythm confuses both partners, leaving one feeling rejected and the other feeling trapped by their own conflicting impulses. Unlike secure individuals who can navigate intimacy with balance, the fearful avoidant lives in a psychological state of tension, unable to fully settle into closeness, yet unable to live without it. Every gesture of love feels like both salvation and potential danger, leading to mixed signals that frustrate relationships. The partner may experience moments of deep emotional union followed by sudden coldness, as if intimacy had never existed. Internally, the fearful avoidant struggles with shame and self-criticism for behaving this way, but their nervous system reacts automatically, driven by memories of unpredictable or unsafe bonds from the past. Attempts to cling tightly to a partner often trigger fears of suffocation, while attempts to detach bring fears of abandonment, trapping them in an emotional paradox. In sexual relationships, this dynamic becomes even more pronounced because physical intimacy amplifies vulnerability. After moments of closeness, a fearful avoidant might retreat, fearing they have revealed too much of themselves, then later regret creating distance and attempt to repair the connection. These oscillations are not games or manipulation, but survival patterns formed to manage conflicting needs of safety and love. Without awareness and healing, the push-pull cycle can persist indefinitely, leaving relationships feeling unstable and emotionally exhausting for both partners, even when love between them is genuine. Healing through conscious integration for a fearful avoidant means venturing into the depths of one's own psyche to confront the fears that have long dictated patterns of intimacy and withdrawal. The internal split between craving connection and fearing it cannot be resolved through surface-level reassurance or temporary fixes. It requires a deliberate and courageous journey inward. Within the fearful avoidant, there exists a fragmented self, one part yearning to be held, seen, and loved fully, while another part has learned that such closeness is unsafe and must be guarded against at all costs. This division creates a life of emotional turbulence, where relationships oscillate between passion and distance, security and fear. Healing begins when this division is brought into consciousness, when the individual can observe these conflicting impulses without judgment and understand that both arose as necessary survival mechanisms in response to early relational wounds. Conscious integration means turning toward the shadow rather than fleeing from it, allowing the hidden pain, shame, and longing to be felt and acknowledged. It involves breaking the automatic reactions of pulling away when intimacy feels threatening and gradually learning to remain present with vulnerability. This process is not linear. It requires patience, self-compassion, and often guidance from safe relationships or therapeutic support. As the fearful avoidant begins to integrate these opposing forces, a transformation occurs. The self no longer feels trapped between two extremes, but begins to experience intimacy as something that can coexist with safety and autonomy. Emotional triggers that once caused immediate withdrawal are met with awareness and understanding rather than panic, allowing for deliberate responses instead of unconscious reactions. Integration also involves healing the internalized beliefs of unworthiness and distrust, replacing them with an embodied sense that love can be nurturing and secure. Over time, the fearful avoidant can reclaim the capacity for authentic closeness, where boundaries are respected, yet connection is deepened rather than feared. Sexual intimacy, once a battlefield of anxiety and longing, becomes a space for trust and genuine union. This conscious work does not erase the past but reshapes its influence, turning old wounds into sources of wisdom and resilience. The divided self gradually unites, allowing love to flow without constant disruption from fear. In this state of integration, intimacy is no longer something to escape or anxiously cling to. It becomes a balanced, grounded experience where the individual can fully meet another without losing themselves, embodying both safety and connection in harmony. The sacred potential of intimacy emerges only when fear is met with awareness and transformation, allowing a fearful avoidant to experience closeness not as a threat, but as a profound union of souls. Beneath layers of defense and withdrawal lies a deep, almost spiritual longing for connection. A desire not merely for companionship or physical touch, but for a merging of essence, where two beings witness and embrace each other's vulnerabilities without judgment. This potential remains dormant as long as fear governs relationships, shaping intimacy into cycles of pursuit and retreat. Yet, when one begins to face their inner wounds and integrate the fragmented parts of the self, intimacy takes on a different meaning. It is no longer a battlefield where love and fear collide, but a sanctuary where healing and growth unfold. In this sacred form, sex transcends physical pleasure, becoming a language of trust and surrender. Each act of closeness carries the possibility of dissolving old patterns of shame and abandonment, replacing them with experiences of safety, acceptance, and mutual reverence. The fearful avoidant, once imprisoned by the belief that closeness leads to pain, gradually discovers that true intimacy honors personal boundaries while allowing genuine emotional and spiritual connection. This transformation does not happen through avoidance of fear, but through courageously meeting it, recognizing that authentic love requires the willingness to be fully seen and to see another without the distortions of past wounds. In this space, intimacy becomes a path of individuation, where partners support each other's wholeness rather than seeking to fill inner voids or control one another. The sacred potential of intimacy lies in its power to unite two beings without erasing individuality, to create a bond where vulnerability becomes strength and connection becomes liberation. For the fearful avoidant, embracing this potential means stepping out of the shadows of old pain and into the light of conscious reciprocal love, a love that heals rather than harms, that elevates rather than confines, and that transforms fear into profound, life-affirming connection. True healing for the fearful avoidant lies not in rejecting intimacy nor in clinging to it desperately, but in understanding the unconscious wounds that shape their dance between closeness and distance. The shadow of intimacy, the inner conflict revealed through sexual connection, the pain of early bonds, the relentless push-pull dynamics, and the long journey of conscious integration all point toward a deeper truth, that beneath fear resides a powerful sacred potential for love. When these hidden fears are brought into the light and the fragmented self begins to heal, intimacy is no longer a battlefield, but a sanctuary, Sex transforms into a profound act of trust, vulnerability evolves into strength, and connection becomes a path to wholeness. In embracing this transformation, the fearful avoidant not only learns to love another but discovers, perhaps for the first time, what it truly means to be safely and completely loved.